to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we explore issues impacting our country's natural resources. In Arizona, we tap into the story of beers made with surprisingly sustainable ingredients. And in Oregon, we see how so-called mass timber is being used to build a modern airport out of wood. But we begin in the Southwest, where a unique lizard species is expected to go extinct after living in the Arizona mountains for 3 million years. National environmental correspondent David Schechter meets us scientists studying how climate change could be destroying their habitat.
This guy,
They're actually, I love them.
at just a few inches long,
They look like they're smiling all the time.
is called a Yarrow's spiny lizard. Despite his tiny size, he has a huge story to tell about climate change and the very future of our planet.
Everyone's got water.
Is it bad that I'm already out of breath?
We'll take it easy.
I'm tagging along on a 2-hour hike with Dr. John Wiens from the University of Arizona to count lizards and document how hotter temperatures are stressing them out.
This is some serious stuff.
Look, it's about to flatten out.
He says it's about to flatten out, but he's been saying that for an hour.
Yarrow's lizards love the cooler mountain habitats across southern Arizona that are well above the hot desert floor. Because they can't take the heat down there, individual populations have been isolated from each other for millions of years in different mountain ranges. Just outside the town of Bisbee, a subpopulation of lizards has lived in the Mule Mountains for 3 million years.
The one here around Bisbee is older than human beings. We anticipate that they're going to be entirely extinct here in the mules by next year, by 2025. They may be extinct already.
Why does he think so? Well, in 2014, Wiens and his colleagues could only find lizards in the Mule Mountains above 5,700 feet of elevation. 8 years later, he went back, and the only lizards that hadn't died out were now above 7,100 feet. That left only a few hundred feet of mountaintop cool enough for them to survive.
So they're almost out of room.
A landmark report from the United Nations determined that 1 million species are threatened with extinction. Based on Dr. Wiens' research, he believes that number is actually far higher, driven by the heat-trapping gases that come from our cars, our factories, and our power plants.
It's catastrophic. As human beings kind of in the developed world, we all sort of have some responsibility for this.
What do you do to look?
We're gonna look on top of rocks here. A little sun is really helpful, but so they'll be out basking. They're very easy to find when it's a sunny day. Does not seem to be anyone here. We'll need to confirm. You come back here at least a couple more times, but it seems like this distinct lineage that's been separated for about 3 million years looks like it's gone now.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Is that disappointing to you?
Well, yeah, of course.
Ultimately, what's the story?
This is what the future is going to look like. This is climate-related extinction.
Yarrow's spiny lizard populations survive in other parts of Arizona, though many are struggling too. Wiens says the death of this local population around Bisbee shows us how climate change is quickening the pace of extinction. It's not only happening over centuries or decades, it's happening now.
We turn now to Florida, where one neighborhood is overrun with a beautiful nuisance, peacocks. Christiane Benavides shows us how this town is taking surprising action to nip the problem in the bud.
All right, we could probably fit these two in this truck.
In Pinecrest, Florida, a novel approach for a pesky predicament. Is this what you pictured?
No, I did not realize how many there were. I mean, how big of a problem.
Trapper Blake Wilkins is usually out chasing reptiles.
Similar to the iguanas, you know, the peacock population has exploded down here.
It is peacock overdrive.
Homeowner Reva Steinman says the beautiful, majestic birds act like they rule the roost.
They are an expensive nuisance.
Jumping on roofs, pecking at cars, damaging property, even stopping traffic, not to mention the noise. So many complaints, the village decided to act. The humane solution, peacock vasectomies.
You know what, leave the trap there.
Wilkins' team is tasked with trapping the peacocks. Wrangling the peacocks is no easy task, but it's just the first step in the process. Then exotic animal veterinarian Don Harris takes over.
If you do a vasectomy on one male, you could stop 7, 10, 15 females from reproducing.
The entire process is less than an hour.
The victory behind all this is we are not removing the masculinity of the males. They retain their beautiful appearance, they retain their beautiful tail, they retain their dominance.
The pilot program has ruffled a few feathers. Some residents feel the birds should be left alone, even stopping some caged peacocks from reaching the operating table.
We've had birds humanely enclosed, ready for the procedures, and people have come in and released them.
Still, other cities and towns across the country are calling Dr. Harris, looking to nip and snip their own peacock problem.
Coming up, brewing beer with recycled wastewater. Yep, we said it right. That story's next. We continue our show out west again, where the population is vastly outpacing the diminishing water supply from the Colorado River. It's why one inventive bar in Arizona is now using ultra-purified wastewater in some beverages they serve to their customers. Barry Peterson gets a taste of a potential eco-friendly solution.
The history of beer goes back thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians used it as an offering to the gods. Beer is usually made with yeast, hops, barley, sometimes rice, and occasionally with fruit, but it always begins with the water, and that's where our story begins. This water trucked from the Scottsdale Water Department to Desert Monk's Brewing in Gilbert, Arizona. A special delivery of special ultra-purified water, a brewer's delight, says owning partner Summer Decker.
Having this clean, clear canvas of the ultra-purified water impacts the flavor and the quality of the beer that we end up serving through our taps.
I love that you call it a canvas. Why?
It's what we paint on. It's the piece that comes together through the creation of the artistry that is beer making.
Beers like the Helles Pale Lager or the Hefeweizen wheat beer. And as for that ultra-purified water, there's no other way to put it. It's ultra-purified from wastewater and sewage. When people taste it, does anybody just say ugh, or do people say wow?
Usually, wow, this is great. The people who say ugh or do the face contortion are those who aren't willing to try it at all.
Really?
Yes.
So they'll do the yuck thing before they've even tasted it.
Yes.
And then when they taste it, they say,
this is great. This is fantastic beer.
To prove just how fantastic, this annual event brings together local brewers whose beer from ultra-purified water meets clever taste-testing PR, designed to get people from yuck to yes. Cheers. Sponsored by the Scottsdale Water Department, whose executive director, Brian Biesmeyer, stands ever ready with his sales pitch.
When you can get people to actually taste the water, it really, I think, the lights go on and they go, oh, wow, this tastes like water. Well, of course it does. But, you know, people just have things in their heads that they think about it, and then they find out, oh, this is from recycled water. And their eyes get bigger, and then they go, huh, that's really good. And then we have a convert.
Scottsdale's ultra-purified water first goes through membrane filtration that eliminates particulates as small as bacteria. Then, reverse osmosis filters out organic or microorganisms, so only water molecules get through. And finally, intense ultraviolet light for disinfection. It's been pumping billions of gallons of ultra-pure water, replenishing aquifers for 25 years, but not yet through taps.
Each astronaut requires about a gallon of water per day.
For a sip right from the tap, you'll need astronaut training and a trip 250 miles straight up to the International Space Station, where astronaut Stephen Bowen spent 6 months working inside and outside, and where pretty much all the water is ultra-purified.
We were joking yesterday's coffee is today's coffee because you just recycle it. Some of the water we're drinking today was up there, probably came up in the early 2000s, and we've just been reusing it and reusing it and reusing it.
So you're drinking the same water that the astronauts have been drinking for decades because you keep recycling it.
Yeah.
In truth, the water that comes out of a kitchen faucet often comes from rivers or reservoirs where animals frolic, fish live, spawn, and die. Motorboats spew gas and oil, so it's purified too, but to a level far below ultra-purified. And Summer Decker sees her ultra-purified beer as a glimpse into the future.
If and when we make it to Mars, we will all be drinking ultra-purified water because we don't know of a water source on Mars. Yes, this is the space-age solution, but it's one we can enjoy today.
And enjoy we did. Let the tasting begin. With 4 regulars at Desert Monks Brewing who did a taste test, not knowing which beer used ultra-purified water. Then they told us their favorites. Steve Valentine works in IT. Okay, Steve, we put 2 of the ultra-purified ones for you, and you chose one of them. What did you like about it?
I like the Hefeweizen. There's nothing different from it. It just tastes like a Hefeweizen.
David Minke works in the pharmacy industry. Really and truly, then, the ultra-filtered are stacked right up with all the others, or not even noticeable difference?
Not noticeable difference.
Auditor Tammy Valentine sees the practical side. Do you see a need for creating or using this kind of water?
Yes, we live in a desert.
Jessica Walsh works in reality TV with a reality check for us all.
You go in, you're going to order what the flavor profile you're looking for, and I think that the water source makes no difference.
So really, America, get your taste buds ready.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's awesome.
It's really awesome.
Mm-hmm. To which we can only say, cheers.
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 Cheers. And cheers to all of you, and trust me, it's delicious.
Ahead, how timber is being used to build airports and even high rises. This is Eye on America. We close our show with a look at a surprising material that could be the future of construction. Mass timber is a type of wood that's as strong as steel and more fire resistant than concrete. Jeff Glore takes us to Oregon to see how it's made and used and asked, is it environmentally sustainable or just greenwashing?
Wow. Whoa. Jeez. That is a lot of wood.
Walking into Portland, Oregon's new airport.
Pretty wild.
Is like seeing a version of the future, firmly rooted in the past.
9 acres? Over us.
Correct.
All wood.
All wood.
Curtis Robenhold is the executive director of the Port of Portland, the man who's led a $2 billion project to build this airport.
It's pretty exciting, and you can start to see it all coming together now.
The dream is to make this more than just a place to take off or land.
You want people to come here just to hang out?
Would not hurt. The idea of the space in front of us here is sort of auditorium seating where you have more of a community space. And how that's used, we'll have to see how that plays out. But it's to be more of a community space rather than a transactional space.
All of this is possible because of mass timber, which is not all that different than the kind of wood you find at the store. Except it's been bonded and pressed into huge pieces, used as walls and floors that can be installed all at once, which for one, dramatically speeds up construction time.
What is this?
This is cross-laminated timber. Like if you went in the Lowe's or Home Depot, you see all the 2x6s. This is just a whole bunch of 2x6s glued together.
Is this the future?
Absolutely.
Chris Evans is the president of TimberLab, one of the firms pioneering the technology. TimberLab manufactured the airport's roof. Mass timber is increasingly being used in museums, community centers, office buildings, even this 25-story condo in Milwaukee.
When you mention this to people, they're like, why would you build a skyscraper of wood or of an apartment building?
Yeah.
It's going to burn down.
Yeah. That's the first reaction. And honestly, the first, 8 years ago when I was first introduced to it on an office building, that was my first reaction. Once you really start to understand what it is, and you don't just think of it as wood, you think of it as a highly sophisticated structural system that has this natural fire resistive quality to it, then you start to see that, oh man, this is a game changer.
Timberlab says today's treated mass timber can be as strong as steel and more fire resistant. To prove it, they do testing like this. Never mind the aesthetic advantage.
If we think about the workplace, nobody wants to go to work in a 9-foot acoustic tile ceiling with a bunch of cubicles and everything, some version of white or tan out there, right?
We want beauty.
When done right, advocates say mass timber can be a win-win long-term for everyone.
You can actually look up on the roof and you can identify where each of these pieces came from. It's a system called track and trace, and the folks who did it, honestly, it's the first time it's been done. It's really astonishing. I think it's something we're going to see in the future around wood and increasing use of wood.
It has to be more expensive that way.
You know, we thought it was going to be a lot more expensive, and I would say it was marginally more expensive, but really it's worth it.
Some critics wonder whether right now it is worth it. They say too many mass timber projects today are a form of greenwashing, often relying on irresponsible harvesting methods.
Every time I see a clear-cut site, it looks apocalyptic.
Yeah, I mean, and they take a while to grow back to any semblance of a forest.
Sean Stevens is the executive director of Oregon Wild. He took us to a forest 90 minutes outside Portland. The timber from this site was used for a project in Washington state that was billed as climate friendly.
Was it climate friendly?
You really can't call clear cutting, especially at this scale, climate friendly.
Do you think skyscrapers made of mass timber are a good idea?
Can a big mass timber building be built and have it be green? Yes, but right now, mostly mass timber is being used as a way to greenwash existing bad practices.
Critics of mass timber say it's greenwashing.
I wouldn't say it's greenwashing at all. American forests are producing more timber than we're consuming. You know, a natural part of forest growth is to have some devastation, landslides, wildfires. Things happen where the forest regenerates and grows.
But this isn't natural, it's man-made if you're clear cutting.
Absolutely, and I'm not a proponent of saying, yes, go clear cut. What I'd say is subscribing to sustainable forestry practices that are understood and known. Those are in alignment with long-term forest health.
Can you ensure that the timber used here in this mass timber is responsibly harvested?
Absolutely, yeah, without a doubt.
The Portland airport acknowledges they did get some of their wood from smaller clear cuts, which many forestry experts say are currently unavoidable. But there are ways to mitigate the harm, like allowing longer growth of trees, doing smaller cuts, and leaving a larger percentage of the trees untouched, which the airport says they did. As new, beautiful mass timber structures push higher every day, builders are being pushed to source them the right way.
You think this is going to be a big deal in every state?
There's more projects in the Northeast now than there are in the Pacific Northwest, as far as like coming online or being designed. And that's surprising to me. I couldn't believe that. And now you're really starting to see this spread across the whole country.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news, stream us right here on CBS News 24/7. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.